We can actually start with our first item on the agenda, which. Oh, no, that's what I'm gonna say, yeah. No. Our first item on the agenda is silent prayer and a pledge of allegiance. And so I asked when you have the silent prayer, if we can think about those that were tragically killed in Tulsa, Oklahoma. As of our latest discovery or research on that, there were 4 people that were involved in that. And so our hearts and prayers go out to them. And I would ask that you have a silent prayer, and I'm going to ring the bell 4 times for each one. Thank you. 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous session.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes,
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
thank you so much. Okay, we have before us, we can go to presentations. I know that's why everybody is here for the Home Ownership Center proclamation, right? So we're going to go right into it. And were you going to lead
Yeah.
that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
And I know Rick Williams is here. He is the president and CEO of the Home Ownership Center. So Rick, would you come forward to the podium as we read through the proclamation? Thank you for being here and thank you for doing the work that you do. So Madam President, with your deference, I'm going to read through the resolution. So it's proclamation in recognition of Home Ownership Center in the National Home Ownership Month. Whereas homeowners contribute to the health and vibrancy of our communities and enhance the prosperity of Hamilton County families. And whereas homeownership helps generate jobs, financial security, and income across the county while serving as an important driver for the economy. And whereas Hamilton County has prioritized homeownership through the 513 Relief Senior Utility and other similar programs. And whereas the city of Cincinnati created the Home Ownership Center of Greater Cincinnati in 1972 to administer a home improvement loan program to 7 targeted neighborhoods in Cincinnati. And whereas the Home Ownership Center of Greater Cincinnati provides services throughout the county, Ohio, and special programming in Northern Kentucky and Southeast Indiana. And whereas the Home Ownership Center of Greater Cincinnati celebrates its 50th anniversary in 2022. And whereas the Home Ownership Center of Greater Cincinnati kicks off the Housing Stability Program for funding support for existing homeowners to retain their homeownership. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners encourages all existing Hamilton County homeowners concerned about retaining their homeownership to engage with the Home Ownership Center of Greater Cincinnati. And be it further proclaimed that the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June of 2022 as National Homeownership Month in all of Hamilton County.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the recognition. I can say personally, it is great to be associated with turning 50 again. We have been able to create the Housing Stability Program based on smart legislation, of which you all are part of that. Legislation that began at the federal level and moved to state and now to county allows us to support homeownership by assisting those homeowners that are delinquent with their mortgages based on the recent pandemic, well, the current pandemic, I should say. And so that opportunity allows us to both connect with you, other layers of government, and local banks. And it is the bank partnerships that has allowed us to create something that not only retains homeownership, but creates homeownership and allows us to actually do this differently than we did in the previous crisis, and where we are able to work with banks that allow the homeowners to keep equity if they happen not to be able to retain the homeownership. So it's allowed us to make those what I call significant tweaks and work on behalf of the homeowners in Hamilton County.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Yes. Let me take a
Get a
picture.
photo?
I'm trying to figure out, you want to stay up here and how you want to do it? You want to try to make it down? Okay, all right. We'd like to take a picture with you.
Fantastic.
All right. Good to see you.
Oh, my.
Congratulations. Yeah. Okay, we will move to our next order of business, which is public comments. I have Jeff Capel. Welcome, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Just days ago, FIFA sent over a huge contract and ordered you to immediately vote for it as if you are their indentured servants. You're Hamilton County commissioners, not FIFA commissioners. Your timeline to spend our tax dollars is whenever you say it is. On this or any other issue, I would hope that you wouldn't vote on a contract until you know the provisions are right and that it benefits taxpayers. One aspect that independent sports economists have studied for decades is that the impact of sports mega events is actually quite small. So we're talking Super Bowls, NCAA tournaments, World Cups, the like. One of the big reasons for that is a crowding out effect. And I'll use non-economic terms to give an example. If I owned a pizza shop in Price Hill that normally did $5,000 worth of business on a Thursday night, but then an Elder Sports Banquet rents it out last Thursday night and I bring in $5,400 off it. These economic impact studies are using that $5,400 number as if that's the impact of the banquet. But in reality, the actual banquet is the $400 difference. You have to account for the $5,000 of business that I shoved away to get the $5,400 of income from the banquet. And we also need to make sure we're clear on what are the meanings of the numbers in the economic impact studies. So like they claim $449 million of economic impact. What they want people to think is that means there's $449 million of tax revenue coming in. That's not the case. If I go buy a $10 sandwich, what that number means, the 449 million, is just how much total dollars changes hands. So if I buy a $10 sandwich, Hamilton County didn't get $10 of tax revenue. It's just $10 went from my account to theirs. Or they say 3,000 jobs supported. Look, if I buy a $5 burger at McDonald's, I supported 25 jobs, whoever was there at that time, but Hamilton County didn't get $5 of tax revenues. So there's just a lot to think about. We need to make sure that this is right before it's voted on. And I hope that you will do your jobs on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Stephen Pryor. Stefan.
He made me hungry talking about some sandwiches, didn't he? All right. I saw this $10 million price tag for this World Cup. Y'all need to get a Port Authority and 3CDC put in $5 million apiece. They can do that World Cup, that TQL. Leave Paul Brown Stadium alone. Leave it alone. And I think it's right that y'all vote down on this for real. Don't vote on this, Ms. Denise Driehaus. Make sure y'all don't vote on this, Ms. Vice President and President. So let 3CDC and Port Authority put the money up. They've been getting taxpayer dollars for many years for now. So they need to do their part. And their part is putting some money up back in the community towards this World Cup. And Paul Brown Stadium, you know, we got a bill $400 and something million until my grandkids start getting grown. So why we keep getting these bills added up? You know, it ain't right. So I had to come down here today and let y'all know that. I'm gonna say it again loud on TV, on the news. 3CDC and the Port Authority need to come together with this $10 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that can buy a whole bunch of sandwiches too. I heard what he was saying, Bishop. But I just let y'all know that Channel 19 News, that 3CDC, Port Authority, I'm gonna say it loud and clear, put that price tag on them. They got all this real estate around in the communities, empty apartment buildings upstairs and nobody living in them. Come on, y'all, rent them apartments out. You'll have more money generated in the city. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. I know y'all thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Like, he is smart. He ain't that right, Channel 5, John London. So make sure Port Authority and 3CDC take that bill, Miss Denise Streethouse. I love y'all. And nothing y'all can do about it. Y'all can't do nothing about it.
Thank you for your comments. We'll move forward on comments and motions of the commissioners. I just have a few comments as it relates to some of my activities during this week, May the 25th through June the 2nd. I have every week I have a White House briefing on Thursday afternoons. There was nothing really significant that came out of that. If it is, I'll bring it to the board. But of course, they're looking at the level of violence in our country and how we can, what strategies do we want to use to make a difference in this country? And also, of course, the baby formula and how we can get more formula in for our moms. So that's a really hard situation, but as you know, they're shipping more formula in from out in the outside of our country. So hopefully that will increase. I went to a memorial on Sunday, former Judge Robert S. Kraft War Memorial, and they honored him. And it was just an awesome experience. I went to school with his daughter at Walnut Hills, and her older sister was there, and I got to meet them. But it was really giving him some praise on what he's done, but also the Jewish community and what they've done as it relates to Memorial Day and other things that are going on in the county and in the city. I also attended on Monday the Blue Ash Memorial Day Parade. And then went right after that to Union Baptist Cemetery. Now they call it United American Cemetery in Madisonville, where some of the Black soldiers and former slaves are laid to rest there. And there was a rabbi who talked about some of the significant people in Hamilton County that are in that cemetery. And it's just obvious to me, I was almost in tears because I can see that they have been trying to keep it together, but there's just needs to be more financial input for that place. And Senator Brown is working on trying to get more money to provide upkeep. I know Hamilton County a couple years ago gave about $10,000 to that effort, but it's so much more that needs to be done. I went yesterday to SOAC, a press conference for senior housing, and Kingsley and Company. It's a Black company, development company, is going to build 50 apartments, affordable housing apartments for seniors. And I was happy to be a part of that. They received a $10 million grant for that purpose. And of course, I know Vice President Reese is going to bring up about the Black Music Walk of Fame press conference that we went to yesterday. And I just say on a scale of 10, it had to be a 20, how it was put together, the production, the marketing, how it rolled together. And I just thought it was just awesome. So you need to be in Hollywood. But the most important part of it is that we are recognizing Black musicians who have not been recognized before in Hamilton County, and we're making a place for them. And that's the most important part of it. So thanks for inviting me to that event, and I was glad to be a part of it. I think that's all I have, and I will pass it over to Vice President Reese.
Thank you. Wanted to comment on the opening of the mobile roller skating rink, and something that definitely have been wanting to happen for about 10 years, and it actually happened. It was very positive. Families, senior citizens, people who used to skate, I'm pretty sure they're sore today, and those who skate. We also were able to bring people in from out of town that came and got a hotel for the weekend because they wanted to be a part of this. It was right down the street on Court Street, right down from our headquarter right here. And it was very, very positive. So I know that it's going to be back up in July and obviously throughout till October. So people can go on the 3CDC website to get the actual schedule, and wanted to also give a shout out to Frisch's Big Boy that's celebrating 75 years. And they are the sponsor of it. And they were giving out some floats, and people were looking for some big boys and tartar sauce, but it was a great, great event. And we started off with some rain. I couldn't make all the days. Obviously, I've got the torn meniscus in my knee and still can't drive. But the other days was a really sunny day and people were able to go down there with their family. So that was very, very positive. Thank you, Madam President, for your comments about the event yesterday. I really appreciate that. I appreciate my colleagues, all of you being there. We've been there together for this historic moment of the Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame. Obviously, last year we had our founding inductees, Bootsy Collins, the Isley Brothers, the late Dr. Charles Fold, and Otis Williams. And this year, we were able to have the kickoff Black Music Month celebration, because June is also Black Music Month. We were able to partner with Hard Rock Casino and kick off a Black Music Month celebration by doing, similar what they do with the Grammys and the Oscars when they tell you who the nominees are going to be. And we were able to announce the inductees. And I'm very excited about this powerful group that's also coming in 2022. Penny Ford, who is from Evanston, and has sang with Shaka Khan, but also has the song I Got the Power, sold 9 million records worldwide. And she tours all over Germany and across seas. She's coming in. She's going to be inducted, Penny Ford. Also, Midnight Star with all the original members, the Callaways, who haven't been together, are coming together to receive their star in the Walk of Fame. And many people know their songs, No Parking on the Dance Floor, and so many more. Also, when some of their members graduated from Woodward High School. We also are inducting High Tech. High Tech is a hip hop legendary producer. Most people think he's from the East Coast, but he's actually from Cincinnati. And he has produced for Snoop Dogg and Anderson .Paak, and the list goes on, Common, and some of his music has even been played in the Super Bowl. So I'm very excited about that. And then the late Wilbert Longmire, many people know, who was discovered by Nancy Wilson at a Cincinnati Music Festival. It's called the Jazz Festival then. He was discovered and opened for her, and he played all over the world with George Benson. So very excited about that group. On Saturday, July 23rd, put it on your calendar. There'll be a induction ceremony and dedication ceremony at the Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame, where the stars will go into the ground, and it'll be completely free and open. This project is free. It's open to the public. It's going to be amazing. And it's a great tourist attraction that will be free. So again, July 23rd, Saturday, during the music festival, noon to 3 p.m. The induction will happen. And as you know, the Cincinnati Music Festival is one of our top economic indicators for Hamilton County, bringing in $107 million a year. We're glad to have it back. So looking forward to it. It was a lot of fun. And, that's what we need. We need more fun, more people coming together, families having a good time. So looking forward to the dedication. And that's all that I have, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. And when you bring up the roller rink, I was watching it on the news, and the joy, the happiness, the diversity of the people that were on that roller rink. And I was thinking, how can we make that temporary rink permanent? I know you were saying they're going to do it again in July. Just wondering, what would it take for them to do it sometime in June? I know maybe more money or something, but until, and as you were saying, I had talked about our roller rink or what's that skateboard area. But my question is, how can we make this permanent, this temporary permanent until we get something in the ground? So that's maybe something our offices can talk about, because people were just so happy when I watched it on there. So, all right, we'll move forward. Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I just do want to note that we've got a bunch of young people in the room. Our age has dropped dramatically because they're interns here. So thank you all. I see them all throughout the room. So it's nice to see some young people interested in county government here in the room today. So I too was at some Memorial Day celebrations, especially the one in Blue Ash, where there was a wonderful ceremony. They do it every year and pay tribute to those who have fallen. And so I want to thank them. And those of, a couple of us were there celebrating the day there. Also notable, the Pride flag went up yesterday, the 1st of June. I ran over to the city, their flag went up yesterday as well. But we're flying proudly across the street, and all 9 buildings have that flag. And then too, I was going to mention the Walk of Fame event that was yesterday. We had some walk-up music, which was kind of cool. I've never had that before, but it was a great event to honor the new inductees going into the Walk of Fame for this year. And so I'll look forward also to more conversation about that, and then the grand celebration down on the banks. Lastly, Madam President, you mentioned the most recent shooting in Tulsa. It seems like we're constantly having moments of silence for shooting victims in this country, and it's so sobering. But I did want to mention that Moms Demand Action, they have a National Gun Violence Awareness Day, June 4th, which is Saturday, 10 a.m. on Fountain Square. And so they will, they do a very nice job of helping folks understand the gravity of what we face here as a country, and what these communities are facing throughout the country. So I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, our county commissioner, county administrator. I want to make you a commissioner. I don't know why. Jeff Aludo.
Thank you, Madam President. Just real quick, I do have a by-leave item, but I think it's on as the third by-leave item that relates to the question of the stadium authority. I know we have 2 by-leaves before that for the county engineer, and I would imagine he might appreciate me deferring to him on those first, since they are by-leaves 1 and 2. But before that, I did just want to just comment very, very briefly, just in terms of recognizing some staff. The board knows we've got some great staff. There's a lot of federal programs that are out there right now, federal monies that are out there. And I want to thank Cam Bentley. I know most of you know Cam in our budget office. Cam was responsible for really the just incredibly difficult work of combing through all of our expenditures over the past year or so with our federal dollars and with our general fund dollars, and just got agreement from FEMA for $1.4 million of reimbursement for some of the work that we've been doing over the past couple of years on our COVID-19 programming. So I want to thank Cam for that and congratulate him and John Bergen in the budget office for just a great work on behalf of the taxpayers. So that was the one comment I had today, Madam President. I would defer back to you on the by-leaves for by-leaves 1 and 2, which I believe are subject to the county engineer.
Okay, why don't we go to by-leave 1?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
By-leave number 1 is engineer's report on the annexation of Kerr Road. The petitioner submitted information for annexation. We found some errors in there, and we are recommending that you do not approve it at this time and wait for the petitioner to resubmit the correct documents.
So I'll make a motion to not approve by-leave 1. Is that appropriate?
Correct, it'll be
Okay.
resubmitted.
Okay,
So this
So
is
make a-
basically a letter for my report to the commissioners.
okay. So we'll receive, I make a motion to receive for the record.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you. By leave number 2 is a resolution allowing us to go to bid on the sidewalk replacement project, project 502-201. This is what we closed a hearing on. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. This will allow us to go out to take this project out to bid. Engineer's estimate is $51,340. No additional land is needed for this project.
Thank you. I'll open it up for discussion. Vice President. Reese.
No comment.
Discussion. Make a motion to adopt by leave 2.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Appreciate it. Okay, we're to by leave 3.
Thank you, Madam President. So this by leave item number 3 is a continuation from our discussion and staff meeting on Tuesday. This relates to the resolution authorizing an agreement for the county to act as the stadium authority for FIFA World Cup 2026. As the board is aware, we've been in discussions with FIFA over the past several days on the agreement that currently exists. The board had some additional questions that I followed up with offices on. There were a couple of questions I just wanted to walk through quickly here, just to provide the board with some context for the discussion and consideration. Some of the questions that came up continued to be about the costs associated with FIFA, in particular costs related to the capital costs of the included in the agreement, which in this particular addendum are included in exhibit, what is known as Exhibit D in this addendum. As we walked through on Tuesday, as we are aware of it, the primary capital costs associated with the county serving as stadium authority include primarily, and this has been a request of FIFA from the very beginning, that it involves the use of a FIFA specification pitch, which is a natural grass pitch or field that would have to be installed. Additionally, in order to secure the perimeter of the field, there would need to be some work done in the corners of Paul Brown Stadium. As the board is aware, Paul Brown Stadium was constructed for soccer, so we have aluminum corners in the corners of the stadium that can be removed. The current specifications for FIFA fields, however, require some additional room, so there's some additional concrete work that has to be performed. All of that totaling the pitch and the concrete work totaling roughly 10 million. I think that number has been out there and in the media, et cetera. I did go over in my PowerPoint. I think the board is aware that there are other, we know that there are going to be other capital costs associated with the World Cup. We know that, for instance, there have been requests on things like concessions and on suite upgrades and some things that we've actually already done. We've done lighting, we've done sound systems, we've done a lot of different improvements that are already incorporated into and accomplished many of the FIFA asks, but there are some things that are still out there, scoreboards, et cetera. What we have said from the beginning on this is that outside of those items, such as the pitch in the corners, those other items would be things that would be essentially, for lack of a better term, things that we were going to be doing anyway, whether it's the replacement of the scoreboard in 2025 or improvements and upgrades to suites and concession areas, et cetera. But what we have said is that we will do them to the degree they're consistent with the master plan, the Paul Brown Stadium master plan, and within the context of our capital improvement program annually. So this would entail working together with the board and with our tenant, the Cincinnati Bengals, on an annual basis to identify those capital improvements that need to be done in the stadium for the long-term benefit of the stadium, for the needs of the Bengals as an NFL franchise, and also what are those things that overlap with the needs of FIFA for the World Cup and performing those on an annual basis to get to where we need to be for holding the World Cup in 2026. So I just wanted to provide a little bit more context around that. We have had discussions with FIFA on potential modifications to the agreement since Tuesday in an effort to continue to move towards as it relates to board policy direction on how we want to have our liability containerized, if you will. So we are actually still in the process of working with FIFA. The agreement that you have in front of you here today provides the ability for myself as county administrator to execute this addendum in substantially the form of what is included here. So while I would not expect significantly more changes, to the degree that there are changes that come in immediately in the next 12 hours or so, that I would be authorized to execute those specific changes. There was some questions about the stadium fund and the amount that was in the stadium fund. That balance is currently between $43 and $46 million. I did just want to qualify that comment in that amount with the acknowledgement that there are various obligations of the stadium fund in terms of whether it's debt service on the stadium, operations of the stadium, the PTR comes from the stadium fund, et cetera. But to clarify specifically to the board question, as we think about the FIFA capital work, that would be the primary source that we would be looking at to fund these, because it is in fact a stadium expense. So moving forward, there are still issues to manage as we once we receive a selection of a bid, presuming we sign off a stadium authority, there would still be issues to manage. There are financial issues that we have to do on an annual basis to make sure that we're moving forward with the capital projects associated with the World Cup. There will be partnerships that we'll have to continue to leverage to ensure that as we work with FIFA on holding the World Cup, that we make sure that our existing tenant, the Cincinnati Bengals, have what they need as it relates to the operation of an NFL franchise. We will continue to work through those on an annual basis as we move forward, provided the board would consider to approve the agreement today. So with that, Madam President, I will turn it back to you. There may be other questions you have that are outside the scope of what I've covered, and I want to make sure that you all have the time to ask those. We also have our counsel here. Mr. Gableman is here. Roger Friedman is here. Happy, and I know they'll be happy to answer any questions to the degree they bridge into the legal as well. So with that, Madam President, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm sure there may be other questions that come up on our DS, but I'd like to and I also want to announce, just to let people know, Jeff Birding is here. If there are any questions as relates to the World Cup, and Paula Box-Muthing is also here. If anyone had any questions, you have in front of you the resolution, and I'm sure all of us will have comments, but I just wanted to make some general comments. But what you were saying, Jeff, initially about it, the money would come out of the stadium fund. And people need to hear that. We're not trying to raise any taxes or anything like that. Or we will be working with private entities, partnering with every agency that you can think of. As you were saying, the Bengals, of course, will be working with us. So partnership is extremely important. And the other thing I thought that you said was really important, and it's significant that we're already doing a lot of this stuff. We've already made an agreement with the Bengals that we're committed to $5 million a year to provide improvements in Paul Brown Stadium. So I wanted to make sure that people heard that. I am an eternal optimist, but I don't wear rose-colored glasses. I am a realist. So when we sit up here and try to make a decision such as this, I really research, I ask questions like I always do, and I make the best decision for the Hamilton County residents. After all, that's what we're here for. We knew going into this that money would be involved, that the county would have to provide some money. And I would say, why get on the field to play and then you decide just to walk off? If you're on the field, you know we're going to have money to pay. We certainly have to do our due diligence and find out how much money that will be. We really don't know right now how much it will be. We mentioned about the 10 million, which would take up two years of the 5 million a year that we're already doing, but we said 10 million. They may come back with a little more. At that point, as a board, we have to decide how far are we going to go. We got the economic impact study from UC, and they said possibly $449 million would be the economic impact. Well, of course, we don't know for sure. Nothing is sure. But one thing I do know, even if it was a $200 million economic impact, is that enough to say yes? We're all here, as I said, to safeguard the money of the taxpayers. And that's why we're taking the time to decide what we're going to do. We're asking the right questions. So I asked myself, the question is, the FIFA World Cup, the financial investment that we would have to make, is it worth making? I came up with yes. The question is it worth it to expose our county, our city, our region to the world for people that Cincinnati and Hamilton County is not like it used to be? I mean, just go down to the banks and see it. Is it worth exposing all these people to come here and then to come back? And I think it is. It's a great marketing tool. I say yes. The question is, will we have another opportunity for this to come to Hamilton County? I say no. I mean, possibly, but when we're working with FIFA and we're trying to get things done, and I mean, they might come back to us, but is this our only opportunity right now to make it happen? I do not want to be on record for stopping or abstaining from moving this county forward as it relates to our commitment with FIFA. It's not an easy decision, certainly not. We're talking about monies that we can use in different places. We're talking about, if other requests come, as I said earlier, we can say no. We have the opportunity and we have the ability, and we need to say no if it comes back, with 20 more million that they need. Now, I haven't heard anything about how great this is. People say, what is great? Yes. It's almost like the Super Bowl. What I mean by that, nobody has ever said where we are now, how we got here. Do you know how many entities wanted to be where we are right now? And just our ability to be able to be in these seats and make a decision as it relates to what we want to do. This is awesome. So we need not to lose sight of where we are and where we've come from, no matter how this vote goes. So I'm going to end my comments right now, and I'm going to go over to Vice President Reese.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me first start off by saying that I have served as the Deputy Director of Tourism for the entire state of Ohio. When I was the Vice Mayor of Cincinnati in the toughest times with the lowest hotel occupancy, I got on planes, people were canceling. I put together a campaign to bring conventions to Cincinnati. I have a track record of bringing major conventions that have filled hotel rooms, that have brought economic impact, and in fact was deemed at one point the #1 cheerleader for Cincinnati in terms of bringing business here. I understand this business because this is the business that I'm in. And I understand whenever you go out and bid for something, I actually put out originally to get the All-Star game 10 years before we got the All-Star game. I had grown up and my parents bid for the NCAA Final Four 10 years before we got the Final Four. So I'm always for bringing business back to the county, and I see myself as a salesperson for Cincinnati and Hamilton County and even the state of Ohio, and have a track record of having a campaign that had record-breaking numbers for ROI, return on investment for the state of Ohio. The highest ROI tourism campaign in the state at that time, and I don't even know if that number has been broken to date. I also was involved in writing the tourism model on how do you fund tourism, looking at all the tax codes and writing the funding model for tourism. So when I look at this, people kind of look at me to have a different outlook because this is the business that I have been in. This is the area that I understand the most. And so the day has been really tough for me because when I was not here when the commission, I don't know if this other members were here then or not, when they said we were going to go for the World Cup. But I'm here today and I'm the one that's got to vote on something when I had a lot of questions that I think were unanswered at the beginning. Number one, my concern today is process, cost, time, and risk. Process, cost, timing, and risk. Number one, I would hope that after today, I'm asking the administrator, and I could put it in a resolution, that we never, ever receive 257-page document on something this impactful on the taxpayers of this county. Now, I said it when we had the bingo presentation of the stadium. We got 200 pages with 30 minutes, total disrespect. Now, Memorial Day, as you heard, many of us were out celebrating Memorial and celebrating our fallen soldiers. And we've got one veteran here. I want to thank her, Teresa Kent, disabled veteran. Thank you for your service. But while we were doing that at nighttime, this came tipping into our inbox. 257 pages of commitment. I don't care who you are. We can't have two sets of rules. So I'm concerned about process. When we're out there helping the average citizens keep their lights on, that's a process. It takes them almost 90 days to get $500. 90 days to get, they call our offices. Nobody's called me back. Nobody's called me back. And when I ask the administration, they say it's a process. It's a process. But when we come here, FIFA shows up. I mean, I appreciate FIFA, but they did not elect me. FIFA shows up with 257 pages and they said, Reese, we got to go with it. You got 48 hours to decide. Most lawyers on each page take at least an hour, at least that's what they billable to us. So we're supposed to go through 257 pages. So I want to move today from the clapping and the fan. As a fan, I want the World Cup. I was excited too, till I got 257 pages. So now I got to look at it from a business perspective. From a business perspective. And so today I want to ask some questions because I didn't give the timeline. I was given the timeline. I'd like to have more on some of the things that we asked about on Tuesday. There's talk that Kentucky is on board, but Kentucky ain't got to sign this 257-page document. They're not on the hook. I love the governor of Kentucky. He came over here, he talked about the bourbon, but I don't see nothing saying he putting up $50 million from Kentucky. He doesn't have to tear up a stadium. State of Ohio, they said the governor's on board with a memo. Well, I've been at the State House for 8.5 years. And let me tell you, memos, they don't give money through memos. You got to have a bill. You got to pass. It got to be signed in. It's got to be in the budget. So we get a memo and not a budget. So I was a little concerned about that. Then they said the money is going to come from, we got the money, it's coming from the stadium fund. Well, that's the same fund I want to give 30% property tax rebate to the taxpayers who were told they were going to get 30% every year. We did it one time, but if we use up all the money, I don't know if we'll have the money to do 30% back to the taxpayers who are paying for the stadium. The other thing I thought about in terms of timing, and I made this little chart because they didn't give me enough time to type and do anything pretty. 2026 is a major year. Major year. Keep things simple. We got PBS upgrades. They gave 200 pages, almost $500 million, and they said that it was incomplete. We got a master plan coming, so it'll be more than that. Paul Brown, the Bengals lease expires in 2026. There has to be a negotiation. Convention Center and the hotel. We got to have a convention hotel. We had a presentation, I believe, 2 weeks ago. 3CDC said it would be $368 million at minimum. $100 million at minimum for a convention center. So that's almost $500 million. And then we've got World Cup, who I was very concerned with on the front, one of the top pages, and I think we've made some changes to it, but it says you got to pay to tear up Paul Brown Stadium and anything else. Once we sign this, ain't no, people say, well, we can go back and negotiate. But what I was told, and maybe I'm gonna ask the administrator, so I'll make sure I'm right. Once this is signed, I don't think we get to go back. According to what it says in here, we are on the hook. Kentucky's not on the hook. The governor's not on the hook. Business community don't have to sign it. They're not on the hook. It's only one group that's on the hook. Taxpayers of Hamilton County. So some things I had asked, and I'm going to ask the administrator because I've been trying my hardest. I really have. Trying to figure out a way to make this thing work. And I appreciate Jeff Birding trying to see what we can do. I want to acknowledge that there are other cities that did pull out. Chicago pulled out because they said it couldn't make no money. We're talking about an economic impact of $400 million, but is that net? No, it's not net. So with all that being said, I'm going to ask the administrator some of the things I had asked for to see if we were able to get some of these things in this document. Number one, Mr. Administrator, I want to ask you about the Bengals lease. I know you said you verbally talked to the Bengals, but I've been here a year and the Bengals don't operate on talk, handshakes. They operate on adjustments to their contract. I've got their contract here. Everything they do, if it's real, is amendment to this contract. My question to you, as we talk about putting grass down versus AstroTurf, we've got a multi-million-dollar franchise player called Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and some others. Has the Bengals, do we have anything in writing that's binding in a court of law that says the Bengals is okay with these changes that you are indicating and that it will not trigger any additional cost in their lease?
Commissioners, no, we don't have anything in writing from the Bengals at this point in time on the amendments that we're suggesting to the stadium or the modifications. So that's something we're just going to have to continue working with the team as we move over the course of the next several years to make sure that we're all working together on this with the county, the team, with FIFA, the business community, et cetera. So no, there's nothing in writing right now that says the Bengals agree to X, Y, or Z on this. I can say, however, that the Bengals have been involved in these conversations as well from the beginning, have, as you indicated, have indicated that they want to continue to be partners on this, and they have been aware for the idea of a grass pitch and grass field and the corner work. That is not something that is necessarily new to them. It goes back even to in October with the site visit from FIFA and technical presentations that have been made by FIFA staff to groundskeeping crew on our staff and with Bengal staff to know what is necessary in order to host the World Cup. So I don't have anything in writing to provide to you on that, but I can say that they have been knowledgeable of that process since we've started those discussions.
Okay, now with that being said, when you sign this, it says guarantees. Once you sign this, it's saying that we got to do it. You're saying that you have to then go into a negotiation, and won't that potentially have some additional costs? Because we don't have anything in writing in this contract, no amendments, and everything we do. I know Tom Gableman's here, maybe he wants to talk about it, but everything that Tom Gableman does with the Bengals on our behalf, it always has to be an amendment. And we don't have an amendment, so we'll sign this saying we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, but couldn't it be some cost or something? Because the Bengals have to agree to this. We're talking about getting rid of, the stadium has to be what they call clean, and we're not talking about bringing some Clorox and some ammonia. We're talking about getting rid of all of the sponsorships, which they might have contracts with, which I asked about. And I know that, that's why I said I needed more time. I got a lot of questions. Those are obligations. Two, we don't have any amendment here saying they'll go with the grass instead of the AstroTurf. The pitches, which you call the pitches, but they're the sides with the chairs. They would reduce the size of Paul Brown Stadium, and they're saying they want to do it a year before. So will this impact the playing season? Will it impact the music festival? What are we talking about?
So first of all, for folks watching home, the pitch is actually the field itself is the pitch. There's also work that has to be done, as you indicated, with the corners. The way this has been scoped by our partners who have assisted with this is in such a way so that the playing season would not be impacted, that those corners would be taken out and placed back in for the NFL season. So there would be a playing surface that would fit within suitable for NFL purposes as well as for FIFA purposes. And this would be done in such a way that it would not impact their playing season, certainly.
Now, you also said, because we're doing a lot of talking for the Bengals, and I know they the ownership really likes to talk for themselves. I haven't heard from them. I would have loved to have them come in and talk to us directly. But when you said reducing the size, now in here, it said that they wanted access to our stadium almost a year before.
There are within the FIFA agreement, there is an exclusive and a non-exclusive access period to the stadium that relates to days and months before and after that's to the stadium itself. So that is what we are working and will continue to work with the team on to make sure that there are that between FIFA, the county, and the Bengals, that we work out a way to make sure the Bengals have what they need to carry on their business as an NFL franchise, while FIFA has what they need to carry out the needs of the World Cup competition. We have heard from FIFA recently that they understand very directly the needs of NFL franchises. They're not only dealing with this in Cincinnati, but they're dealing with this in other communities like Boston, Dallas, Atlanta, other places where there are NFL franchises, in almost all of these communities where the World Cup is looking to play in 2026. They have indicated that they are cognizant and sensitive to the issues of the NFL and NFL teams. They have told us that there will be, for sites that are selected, a full site visit in the very near future, within the next several months, to walk through the specific needs of the NFL team, so that they can start to determine which spaces they absolutely need to be in, so that they can work something out with the team and with the county at that point in time.
Well, I know we don't know what other teams' contracts are, because we don't have the same NFL deal as these other cities. Most of them, all of our costs falls on us. They've got a pretty ironclad contract here with very little to no wiggle room. My question, let's get to the cost. Now, you said last on Tuesday that it got out to the media, it's only $10 million. And now I'm looking at, of course, Wi-Fi, $8 million. Bengals paid for it, but we owe them back for the $8 million. You said the corners, the areas with the seating, which is my major concern, taking that out, you're looking at $12 to $14 million. Then you said that the actual grass and the AstroTurf, as you call it, the pitch, we originally said it was going to be $1 million, then it became $4 million. And this just becomes a major sliding scale. And so I was a little concerned about that. But my question is, are you saying when you sign this, the Bengals are in and there'll be no additional costs based on their contract to the Bengals?
So first and foremost, as it relates to the cost itself, I want to be very clear, and I covered this at the beginning in my comments, and I also even said it in the meeting on Tuesday. I have never said that there's only a cost of $10 million. I think I've been very clear as I've talked with the board in private and publicly, that $10 million relates to the cost of the pitch replacement and the corner work. There would be other costs involved. There will be other costs involved. We've talked about everything from suite upgrades to concession upgrades. What I have said, and even the scoreboard, what I have said was that those items would be addressed within the context of the capital improvement program for the stadium and costs that we already know that we have to be borne for upkeep of the stadium. We have, for instance, a scoreboard planned within our financial model. So for replacement of that scoreboard at end of life. So what I was communicating to the board, and I think this goes back to communications from much earlier on this year, is a cost of approximately $10 million for the pitch in the corners, and additional costs related to these other things that we have attempted to confine and containerize within our capital improvement program and our stadium master plan. Those exist within what I've referred to as Exhibit D in the addendum that you have received, and we have done our best within the scope of that addendum and in our conversations with FIFA to ensure that there is clarity that these are within, that we will be conducting these activities within the master plan and within the capital improvement program of the county. We do that. We have those conversations on an annual basis with the team. So we would continue those conversations to find those things that overlap with the needs of the stadium, the needs of the master plan and the team, and with FIFA as well. What I've also said is that to the degree that there are needs of the stadium that if there are urgent maintenance needs of the stadium. So this is to the question about where additional might be needed. If there are urgent needs of the stadium where we need to do something, say, structural in the stadium that does not allow for hitting and accomplishing some of these things, that at that point in time, we would come and talk to the board about what those projects might be that were falling off from FIFA and how we'd go about funding them. And I think that's also where we would start to talk to our partners outside in the host community to determine how we go about funding those. I can say that as it relates to the agreement, the latest version of the agreement that came from FIFA this morning, that one of the changes that they have made to it was, and this was partly at the request of the county, although we'd asked for it in a little bit different way, was that the host community authority or the host city authority is now included in the agreement as an entity that is responsible with the stadium authority for accomplishment of these stadium renovations. So as before, the agreement simply listed the stadium authority, it now lists the stadium authority and the host city authority as being the entities responsible for the stadium renovations. This reflects, if you will, the conversation that we've had with folks in the community and both in the local organizing committee and the business community who have said that we will work with the county in terms of if we find out there are things over and above the CIP and the master plan, and this is becoming from a financial perspective straining on the county, that's when we would look to our partners at the host community and the business community and broader civic community to assist with, and that is now formalized more effectively into the agreement itself. So I'm sorry, I went on for a while there, Madam Vice President, but that addresses issues on cost.
Thank you for that. I know that that was one of my top things. The first thing that stuck out at me is that it said we would, once you sign this 25 pages, 257-page document, appreciate the addendum that we received today, but we would be responsible for any additional cost that we don't know what that is. Today, it just seems, for me, we're signing something and it just makes me uneasy.
So Madam Vice President, on that, it's an important question, and
Yeah.
I didn't answer that. I apologize, didn't answer that in my first comments here. But no, we heard that loud and clear from the board on Tuesday. We have attempted in the latest round of the addendum as much as possible to link our requirements to what is in Exhibit D and further within the scope of, our master plan and our CIP. So we have had our stadium staff go back through the host community requirements and look to see if there are things outside of what is in Exhibit D that would cause significant strain. We're not seeing those at this point in time. There was a meeting back in October down at the stadium where FIFA staff actually came in, met extensively with our county staff and with staff of the Cincinnati Bengals from an operating perspective to walk through this, and by and large came away what I believe to be fairly satisfied with how our staff was looking to host this competition in 2026, with the exception that it was at that point in time that it was identified that the corners from a regulation size perspective needed some work as well. So in terms of your question about when this agreement is signed, are we on the hook? I would say that when this agreement is signed, the host community authority and the stadium authority are responsible for the stadium renovations. We have done our best to link those renovations to what is in Exhibit D and within our master plan and our CIP. To the degree there are costs outside of that, that's where we have talked with our partners about working effectively to ensure that we, as a community, figure out the best way to make this happen on behalf of the entire community.
Other question is, once we sign this, well, let me go back. Can you tell us what we're signing for cost-wise? How much are we signing for?
So the Exhibit D, as is in the agreement, includes, without a doubt, includes the construction of a FIFA specification field and removal and reinstallation of the corners. That totals approximately we've called it $10 to $12 million. To your question about the Bengals, I initially said 10, we said 10 to 12. There could be some additional cost that might get you to that higher level of the range. If in fact our tenant, the Cincinnati Bengals, says at the end of this, we want to go back to playing on this type of field, this artificial or hybrid artificial turf. So that there could be an additional on top of the 10 there. So you might get up to 10 to 12 at that point. The other items that are in there, everything from concessions to suites, suite upgrades. Again, what we have said is we will work within our CIP to accomplish these to the degree they're within the master plan and within our financial model as well. So all in, if you look at things like we're currently doing Wi-Fi upgrades at approximately $8 million. We are a new scoreboard, depending upon the type of the scoreboard, which is in our financial model. That is one that's outside of the CIP, but it is in our financial model to be replaced in approximately 2025. Could be $12 to $15 million. So in total, all of these things, as we look at them, could be in the when you total everything up in the 40, 45, $50 million range when you total everything. But again, the vast majority of that would be work that is necessary within the stadium and that we would be attempting to do within our CIP and within our master and consistent with our master plan.
What I'm trying to get to is the total cost we could tell the taxpayers. We had talked it Tuesday. Many of us asked, I know I asked about having a cap. Now you said in that fund is what, 46 million? And now you're saying 40 million of it would be here, and that's not even including any negotiations that we would have and cost associated with the lease, the Bengals lease, because the lease will play a role. That's not in here. We don't have anything from the Bengals saying it won't be any more cost. It's within the lease and we're good. Or am I wrong? Have the Bengals sent us something saying that there'll be no additional cost? If we do those things you just talked about, $40 million, nothing will trigger their lease, and we won't have to talk about a lease because we already got to do a lease outside of this, but nothing will trigger saying that, okay, now let's get down to negotiating. That's what I don't want. What I don't want is we signed 257 pages. We run in here with $40 million. And then you say, now we've got to get with Tom Gableman and the Bengals lawyers. And now let's get down to business and look at the lease. And then there's some other costs. Are you saying that if we pass this today, $40 million is the max that will be used? Anything over and above would be the business community, and that the Bengals are okay with everything you just said, and it will not trigger anything in their lease for any additional cost that we would have to come up with?
Well, first and foremost, I'll just reiterate that, no, I don't have anything from the Bengals. I don't have anything in writing from the Bengals saying we are okay with everything that you've said. I can say that the Bengals have been partners at the table with us on this as we have moved forward. To your question about a cap, no, I don't have a cap number for you. What I do have is to say that as we have talked with our partners on this, we have indicated and we have incorporated it to the best we can into the agreement with FIFA. So much so now that the agreement has been amended to indicate that the host community authority will also be responsible with the stadium authority for renovations, that as we work with that authority to figure out how those costs would be shared, that the county's perspective on this is that the county should bear the costs for those stadium expenses that are associated with what I believe the public would expect for the upkeep and maintenance of Paul Brown Stadium, and reasonably associated with the attraction of other events such as FIFA, et cetera. But if there are things that are outside of that context, that's where we would look for support from our partners in the community to assist. So if there are costs outside of the items that are included in Exhibit D, outside of our master plan and outside of our CIP, that's where we would look to partner with the outside community, the business community, et cetera, to assist with those costs.
In terms of the risk, you met with me before we came in here for a few minutes. You said there were 3 areas and one that has some risk. Can you talk about the risk?
Yeah, happy to. So the first area just relates to the idea that as we attempt to be cautious on this, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to, as you indicated, Madam Vice President, to assure that we are meeting the terms we have of the lease and of the agreement with FIFA. We have to be cognizant that we have a tenant in the Cincinnati Bengals that is the primary tenant of Paul Brown Stadium. And we want to ensure that as we move forward with FIFA, that FIFA is cognizant of that, and that as we operationally get into 2026, that we are ensuring that FIFA has accommodations and access to the stadium in a way that is not detrimental to the operations of the Bengals as an NFL team. So that's one area that we want to continue to work on. There was some legal language in the agreement relating to indemnification, et cetera, that our attorneys are continuing to work with FIFA on. And then as I had also indicated, that while FIFA indicated and has changed in the agreement, its agreement with us to incorporate the host city authority into the agreement, they did not incorporate our precise language, which goes a little bit further in terms of how those costs would be split in accordance with the master plan. And we are still working with FIFA on that, and still hope to continue to get some language that is more consistent with our initial request on that, which is why the resolution that is presented to you today indicates substantially the form of, so that we can continue to work with FIFA on those three areas.
And you have to sign by tomorrow. We got all these deadlines. I mean, this is the part, I don't really care for. People can say, oh, we've been working on this for years. We didn't have these 257 pages for years. We got that in for 48 hours. If they do not, once we vote on this and they come back and they don't go with what your language is tomorrow, they don't have to call us back. They don't have to talk to us. If they don't, passing this allows you to go ahead and move forward, even though the risk is there that you were trying to change.
Passing this
Is that
would allow me to move forward. That is correct. With an understanding, as you indicated, of what those risks are, that we have to continue to work with the team. We have to continue to work with the host community as well. However, I would say that that does not prevent us from continuing to work with FIFA on this, because I don't want to understate the importance of those matters either. And we've indicated to FIFA that they are quite important to the county. And we will continue to work hard to make sure that we get as much of that language as we possibly can.
And that also in your language, what about the Cincinnati Music Festival? Would that be impacted? Because it's like a year before, they want to get in, they want to do stuff the year before. Can we maybe need to put that down? I don't know if you've brought that up in your conversation.
Yeah, so we're talking about an event that is at Paul Brown Stadium over June and early July. So that is, I think, all special events within that time frame. We're going to have to continue to work. We're going to have to work with to work something out on timing as it relates to those events.
Well, we need to work it out, because this is one that brings us $107 million every year. When FIFA's gone, it'll still be bringing us money. So I think that needs to be in there. Madam President, and to my colleagues, Commissioner Dreehouse, I know it, listen, of course, President Dumas has indicated her intentions, and Commissioner Dreehouse will indicate hers, and it looks like leaning more toward moving forward. Let me say this has been one of the toughest, not the only tough, but one of the toughest things. And I do have tremendous concern about a pattern that is happening down here of major deals coming in and rushed out, that are complicated and that have long-term economic effects. I'm concerned that the fund has $46 million and we're talking about $40 million already, and we don't even have the real list. I'm concerned that we're signing off that appears to be somewhat like a blank check, because we don't have, I can't, if you give me a check today, I can't write it out because I don't know how much it is for. All we can do is sign our signature and hand it over and tell them you write it in. And I have some concerns about that. I also have concerns that the biggest concern I got right now is that we got a Bengals lease that expires in 2026. They're the top tenant inside of our facility that we were presented with $500 million. And after I talked to you, Mr. Aludo, you told me that is not even close. It's going to be $800 million that we've got to do. We've got to get this hotel up quickly. And that's almost $500 million when you put the convention center with it. I'm just really concerned about that. People who know me know that I really love bringing stuff to our area. And I tossed and turned. I tried to give you, can we negotiate this? Can we negotiate that? Can we do this? But I think it started with the fact that we only got 48 hours. And so today I'd like to have on the record, you can say, and attribute it to me, that 48 hours is unacceptable. Unacceptable for any type of major complex deals such as this. Now, I don't want to get in the way of stopping it, and my colleagues are probably moving forward with it. So today, what I'm going to ask, I ran out of time. I'm going to abstain today until I see some contracts. I like to see the bingo contract. I like to see the business. They said they got to put their LLC together. I like to see their contract. The governor, they said he's got a memo. I'd like to see his memo go into a budget memo that he brings back with a bill. People told me Kentucky wants it. I'd like to see the governor of Kentucky come with his budget memo and say it's in there. And once we have all that, I think it'll be on a lot more solid ground for the taxpayers. The timing couldn't be worse. Inflation is up, gas prices are jumping out the roof, babies don't have milk, people trying to keep the gas and electric on. And now we're coming with a deal that we don't even really know the cost. We just signed it saying, isn't this a great thing? And I think it is a great thing if somebody else pay for it. But if we got to pay for it, then I got to get into the 257-page document. And in this document, I think we did the best we could in 48 hours. I think we could have came out a lot better if we had months to deal with this. And a major missing piece to this whole thing, we don't have anything from the Cincinnati Bingo ownership as it relates to their lease. And from my understanding and working here a year, they don't do anything with a handshake and a smile. They like to have their stuff in a legal document, an amendment to their contract. And we had several amendments. My other concern is the $46 million that we have there. If it goes over 46 million, we're in trouble. But more importantly, I want to try to get the 30% again. And I don't want to hear that we can't give the people 30% on their property taxes. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear we can't afford it because we done gave it all to FIFA. We can't afford it because we done used it all up. It don't fit our business model. Well, this didn't fit the business model, but we tried to make it fit. So I want the taxpayers to come first in everything. I appreciate FIFA. They'll have some great teams from all over the world coming. But my team is Hamilton County taxpayers, and I want us to win every time. I really wish, and my good friend Jeff Birding's here, I really wish that TQL would have built for the size of the World Cup. Then we wouldn't have anything. You guys had a wonderful match that just happened this weekend. We didn't have to do nothing but just book hotel rooms. So I'm just going to have to abstain right now. I've run out of time because I only have 48 hours, and I'm not comfortable with just signing a check of a lot of things that we don't have together. And I'm going to ask the administrator and our lawyers to keep working and be able to bring something hopefully back to us with the bingos in it without any additional cost, without triggering any type of negotiations that we may have for the 2026 lease that's ending, and bring that back. And I know there'll be other things we'll be able to do with the World Cup. But as for today, I'm going to have to abstain. I tried to crunch the numbers. I tried to ask, can we include this? Can we include that? They said you can't do it. But please send a message back, Mr. Aludo. Please do not bring us any more 257-page documents with 48 hours. They're so complex. I know you did the best you can. I want to thank your staff. I want to thank the lawyers that tried to crunch it. But, I think there's too many unknowns still. And so I know people say, the big picture, and I think the big picture for us is when FIFA is gone, do we got a lease? The big picture is when FIFA's gone, can I do 30% back to the property owners who are struggling to keep their house? When FIFA is gone, do I have something that I can sell and bring other conventions? When FIFA is gone, who paying the bill? Did somebody else pay it or do we have to pay it? And so I had to think beyond my excitement, my clapping, my rah-rah, and I had to get down to these numbers. I think we can get there, but I just think we need more time and more partners with legal documents that binds everything together. And without that Bengals lease, I'm just not comfortable, because I think that there are a lot of things that we're asking that they have that will cost us additional dollars. And I just would like to know that in advance. So with that, I'm not, it's nothing personal. I don't want to stop FIFA. I don't want to stop the World Cup. I'm not stopping it. But I would like to take a pause myself and allow the administrator to get with the Bengals, get those amendments, get with Gableman, tell me what it's going to cost, get over here, show me what's the real number, show me a business model where the 30% can still happen. And I think you'll be able to do those things, but you just couldn't do them in 48 hours. And I understand that. So I appreciate it.
Madam President, I'm sorry, if I could just respond briefly, not necessarily respond, but just add some context on the 46 million, just so for folks who are watching at home. I don't want it to sound as if, and I don't think this is the way it was intended to sound, that we've got a $46 million balance, and next year we got to spend $40 million. It's gonna come out and it's gonna be down to 6, if you're just doing the math. But this, first and foremost, if we are successful in incorporating a significant amount of that expense into our regular CIP, that is an expense that is already anticipated within the stadium fund. And then we would also look for, in some of the larger expenditures, as we do with things like scoreboards, et cetera, we'll look to debt finance those. So there'll be debt service over a longer period of time, but we're not talking about big chunks out of the stadium fund. It's still the balance of the stadium fund is an issue. It has always been an issue. I was here and a part of county administration back when that fund almost went bankrupt. So I'm very aware, Madam President, Madam Vice President, of the strains on that fund and the desire of the board to continue to provide as much property tax rebate as possibly can be done. And yes, you can't deny that any obligation within that fund that increases, or any new obligation, strains those other obligations. That's just the nature of the financial physics of that particular fund. But we will continue to do, and we've got great financial staff that looks to make sure that we are allocating these expenses and doing it in such a way that we maintain as high a level of balance as we possibly can, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, I know. What I was saying was, when we asked for the 30%, I know when I first asked for it, the first thing you said was, oh no, it can't sustain itself. It can't go in the business model. And I'm telling you now, and my colleagues may or may not go with it, but I'm coming back with the 30%. And we can't say, when we get back to the taxpayers, you say, oh, it don't fit the model, we're gonna go bankrupt. But then over here, we're going with $40 million up front, and it might be more. So that's why I was bringing that up. I'm not bringing it up to say, you're going to bankrupt anything. But when I asked for 30%, you was showing me that we was going bankrupt, and we didn't go bankrupt. So I just want to make sure, my goal is, we cannot look at these things in silos anymore. This one comes and they want 500 million. That's just the Bengals. Over here, this one comes, oh, that's just the hotel, 368 million and 100 million for convention center. That's just that. Over here, oh no, that's just the World Cup. I mean, this thing, we got one source, and we've got some different sources, but we're one county, and we just have to look at it the way, at least I look at it. I look at it more holistically versus in just one or two silos. So I just wanted to bring that up, because then if I bring up the 30%, I don't want to hear, well, we can't do it, we're going to go broke. And then over here, oh no, we got money to do it. So that's why I brought that.
Yeah, I understand. I was,
Yeah.
My only point, and on the 30%, I just want to be clear as well, because this is going to be coming up in fewer months than probably all of us would like. But the administration's perspective on the 30% of the rebate is that, and we've consistently said, any number up to 30% is doable in 1 year on the property tax rebate. With the fund in its current position, what we've said was a sustained 30% would bankrupt that fund very, very quickly. So I just want to be clear that it wasn't necessarily that a 1 year full property tax rebate would bankrupt the fund, because again, there's $46 million in the fund, but that a sustained amount over years would would be problematic in the fund. So I think we're saying the same thing, but just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and I wanted to clarify that also, and thank you for Commissioner Dreehouse for being so patient. Just a couple comments. When we talk about the document that we got, the over 250-page document in 48 hours or so, there was some new stuff in there. There was some specificity in there, but it wasn't all new stuff for us. We've been talking about FIFA for a while. So when we got this document, as I said, there was some new stuff, some more specific information, and that's why we're not the only ones that are reviewing it. Administration is reviewing it, our lawyers are reviewing it to make sure it's where we need it to be, and that's why we put some tweaks in it and we changed some things to meet our needs. So I don't want the residents that are watching to think that we're so incompetent or inefficient or unprofessional that we would take a document and make such an important decision after only having it for 48 hours. So that is not what happened. The specific document came, but there were other content that we've known about for a year and a half at least. But I also wanted to make the point about the 30% PTR that people are listening to. We made it very clear when we did it that we may not be able to sustain that. So I thought I heard that we would be doing it every year when I heard it earlier, but I just want to let you know that we have to evaluate our ability to do that. I'm gonna let you.
But just on that one point though, maybe you had the information, but I gotta speak for me. I didn't have this information. No, I did not. I've been asking for the bid package for a year.
Oh, you asked for the
Yeah,
bid
the bid
package.
package. The only thing that matters is the contract. Now verbally, and also earlier, we were told that the grass would be $1 million. So I want to be clear. Now, I don't know when others got it because I don't want to speak to them, but I want to say for Alicia Reese, County Commissioner, I received this Memorial Night, 257 pages. Because if I had received this, I would have stopped it from the beginning when they first said that we got to pay for everything in the document and everything if they come up with something later on. I would have never let that go. So I want to make that clear. And number two, we do have to evaluate it each year, just like we're evaluating this. And I'm saying for me, I would like to see the 30% move forward. So I'm not going to say we ain't going to do it. We might not, but County Commissioner, I don't want to speak, I'm speaking for me. I'm coming back with it. So I just want to, we can't say we can't afford something on one end and then we come in World Cup, who's not even the Hamilton County taxpayers, they get everything. And then the taxpayers, we said, we got to look at it. So I just wanted to speak for myself. I don't know when everybody else got it, but please don't say that I had it for a long time. Number one, I wasn't here when they put the first bid out. And number two, you could go back to all the YouTube channels, all the meetings where I consistently asked for the bid package. So we wouldn't have 48 hours. So I just wanted to highlight that. I know everybody gets to speak for themselves, and I'm not speaking to attack anyone. I'm speaking on behalf of what happened with me in my office, but I got this 48 hours. The other document, I got 30 minutes. And what I'm saying, I'm willing to put a resolution forward that we have one set of rules, one process, so this never happens again, because we've got a lot of complicated things that we need time to read. At least I know I do.
And I made it very clear on Tuesday that the bid package was not received. The bid package was not received, but we have continually been receiving information as it relates to FIFA and expectations. And the last thing I wanted to say, Commissioner Dreehouse, and I'll move on to you. I wish we had more time. We don't have more time. As FIFA is looking at the other entities that they're interested in maybe being a part of for the whole city, we don't have the time. So we have to make a decision from the information that we have and that we've gathered. We have to trust our lawyers. We have to trust our administrators. We have to trust what's in writing. We have to trust the fact the questions that we asked were answered the way we need them to be answered, and continue to work and partner with our host committee and everyone else. Continue the partnership, but there is a deadline and we have to meet it if we want to be a part of this. Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you, Madam President. So from my vantage point, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. This is not something we're going to see again in our careers. And I am I think it's important that we embrace opportunities when they come our way, especially opportunities like this one that put us on the world stage and have an unprecedented economic impact for this community. And we, saw the study on Tuesday, $450 million economic impact for this region for this event. And so what we are being asked to do is invest and be a partner as the Hamilton County Commission in bringing this opportunity to this community. And so that, to my vantage point, is what is in front of us. And so to be more specific, there are at least 4 games over a month's time. There are going to be potentially future opportunities for soccer events in the future, as I say, whether it's a TQL or down at the Paul Brown Stadium. And then there are legacy projects that are built in. And so there will be a lasting impact to this community if we bring the World Cup games to Hamilton County and to Cincinnati. So the other piece that, and I think it was mentioned on Tuesday, there is this other economic impact, and I know Julie Calvert's in the room, and she could speak to this more eloquently, but there is this impact that you can't measure. It's about all the marketing and promotion and good feeling that comes with hosting an event like this. Just happened with the Super Bowl, which wasn't here, and we still got some of that impact here, and it can be quantified, but it's hard to quantify. And so that's over and above the $450 million economic benefit that has already been identified through a study through UC. So, I just want to say that this opportunity is huge from my vantage point and really has long-lasting economic benefit to the community. And so on Tuesday, I think we all had questions. We all had some concerns. So it was laid out in front of us, and Mr. Aludo has mentioned it a number of times this afternoon, that, the obligation that we are looking at is $4 million for the pitch, $6 million for changing the seats, and then other obligations. And I don't know if y'all have had a chance to read through Exhibit D, but here's Exhibit D, and this is what is being asked for. I mean, it's right in front of us. And there is a crosswalk here that talks about the items and then what we're doing by way of the capital improvement plan and the master plan and how it fits in to money we're already spending because of these plans and the long-term nature of what we do. And then how it reflects on the World Cup. And so we're trying to build this crosswalk that says, we already have plans. It's a 4-year plan that we have seen from the capital improvement and the master plan. Mm-hmm. We're already doing these improvements to the stadium, and they fit very nicely with what the World Cup wants, because it's all the same. It's a stadium. It's all the same stuff. And so I did go through this. I had seen it on Tuesday, but I hadn't gone through it in detail. And now I've gone through that, and it's very clear with this crosswalk as to what, in addition to this, we might be asked to invest. And so the question then becomes, if there are things that are in addition to this crosswalk that we have that are already included in our plan, whose responsibility is that? And, what would that look like? And so we asked the administrator, can we tighten up the language that goes to FIFA that talks about who is obligated to do these improvements? And so we added language, and I thank our attorneys who worked on this in addition to the administration, that now in the document, it said it's a shared responsibility with the host city authority. So we are not entirely on the hook for any additional requests from FIFA, because now we have this joint authority that we are in partnership with. And this whole thing is about partnerships. And so it limits our liability if we do face anything that's over and above what's already in this crosswalk that I mentioned. So I've heard from many, I'm sure you have, many citizens have weighed in on this topic. I've heard from the public sector, from the private sector. We have all received letters from, I've got the regional chamber, Jobs Ohio. We got a communication from the African American Chamber, the Japanese Chamber, the Midwest USC Chinese Chamber. A whole bunch of chambers are interested in us moving forward with this because they clearly see the economic impact to their businesses, to the small businesses in this community that will tremendously benefit if we've got the World Cup here. So I take all these things into consideration. Northern Kentucky has weighed in, and they are supportive and willing to be a partner. The governor's office has weighed in, and the governor has committed to help with anything that is outside what we've already talked about in our own plan. The city of Cincinnati is in. Talked to the mayor earlier today. They're very excited about this opportunity. And so where does the rubber meet the road then when it comes to something that we're comfortable with? So we have to have a level of trust from my vantage point in what we've heard and what we've seen in writing in some of these letters. And I want to highlight one of them. It is signed by the organizing committee. And so the organizing committee is a small group of people that have been working very hard, and as you say, for a long time to try to bring the World Cup to Cincinnati. And they say in their letter, and it's dated June 2nd, in regard to the new special purpose entity, it is established under the hosting agreements, a comprehensive fundraising plan that will be developed to address all of FIFA's requirements. We've already pledged to raise $35 to $50 million to support the World Cup and are confident that we could work closely with Hamilton County, the state of Ohio, and other partners to ensure that any additional financial obligations are met. So to my view, that gives me sufficient confidence that we have covered ourselves and covered any liability for the taxpayer in moving forward with something that's going to generate so much benefit for the community. So we have a decision to make. We have to weigh these things. It's always a balance. Everything we do, when it's a big thing like this, it's a balance between what our investment is and the return on the investment. And to my view, there's a tremendous return on this investment. And many of the investments we will make in the stadium are investments we were going to make anyway. And so I take a great deal of comfort in that. We do big things as a community when we come together, when we do things together, when we don't pit one another against one another. So I think about the new music center, which was a collaboration between the private sector and the public sector, the city and the county, to make that a reality. I think of the transit levy that will allow for increased transportation and infrastructure work to happen throughout this county. That was a public-private partnership that moved that forward. I think about the banks, thinking way back to before any of us were here, and how that worked. And that was a public-private partnership. And so from where I sit, this is a public-private partnership. It has to be. And I think the private side has weighed in and the public side has weighed in. And so I believe that this is our investment. This is our piece of the partnership. And so, we need to approach it in a spirit of partnership. We have 4 years to work through some of the issues that have been raised. We've all raised issues related to the agreement with FIFA, but we have a deadline, as you say, and we need to move this forward. If we don't sign, it does not move forward, and then there will be no partnerships. There will be no opportunity to have this benefit come to our region. And so I have confidence in our partners. I have confidence in the county and our ability to execute this. I believe we should step up and embrace this opportunity with the spirit of partnership and move this forward. So I am ready to support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Make no mistake that this is a hard decision because we don't have all the answers. But something like this should not be easy. It should not be an easy decision. So I'm glad we were able to discuss it and get the information that we were able to get. There are also some people in our community that are not for this. So we mentioned everybody who's in support of it. And I've received some information from some that are not in agreement with it. So at this point, I'd like to make a motion.
Before you make the motion, I just want to reiterate again that the reason I'm abstaining because I don't want to get in the way of it happening, but I would like to see some of these contracts. And I think that the bingo lease is a component that has not been answered. But more time will allow us to answer those questions. And I look forward to those questions being answered.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution authorizing agreement to act as a stadium authority for the FIFA World Cup 2026.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Abstention.
Thank you so much. We will move forward.
Madam President,
Yes.
I also just wanted to say on that particular item, that again, what the board has signed, I just want to be clear about this, is for myself to execute an agreement in substantially the form is what it attached. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we do have some items out that are currently that are outstanding with FIFA, and that my hope is that the final version that we execute on this is a bit different, and that it might include some verbiage responsive to those concerns of the board. So I just wanted
I think
to,
you made that pretty
okay,
clear.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to make
I
sure.
appreciate it, though. Okay, we will move forward on our regular agenda. Our engineers here.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to vacate a portion of Willow Road fee right away on behalf of the Knights of the Golden Trail, Section 13, Township 4, and entire Range 2 of Sims Township. This is the resolution and plat to accept the vacation as per the hearings that were previously held.
Thank you so much. I was looking for our gentleman that usually comes. He didn't come today. So any discussion on item 1? Okay. Like to make a motion to approve item 1?
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Item 2?
Item number 2 is for the Stormwater District. This is a resolution authorizing the 4th optional renewal on the agreement with CDM Smith for professional consultant services for the NDPES Phase 2 permit team for the Hamilton County Stormwater District. This will be the final renewal of the 5-year contract. It's for $674,880, and that comes out of the Stormwater District funds.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
No.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 2.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have before you consent agenda items 3 through 9. I will now open it up for any discussion or questions on either of those items. Vice President Reese.
Sorry, 1 second. Just making sure. I have no comments on those items.
Thank you. Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes, thank you. I do have not a question so much as just noting that, and I know Michael is in the room, Michael Patton. Under the JFS items, we're spending 23 million in transportation items, and I don't know that you're prepared today, and I don't expect you to go into great detail here, but I think it would be helpful as we go through these kind of contracts to understand what these mean in terms of the children and adults that are being served here through these contracts. Because as I look at them, it's a significant amount of money, and I don't always understand, what those needs are and why this dollar amount is needed to accomplish that. So I don't know if you're prepared today to talk to it, or if you can come back at a different meeting and just expound upon it a little bit.
Sure. I think it's a really good question. A lot of money. We need to be aware of where we're spending the money. The contracts that we have, the amounts that are in front of you are based on historical spending for children's services. So these are children that are in our custody. And we use those contracts to transport those children on behalf of relative caretakers and also foster parents who have children who need to go to medical appointments, go to visitation, court order visitation. And so these contracts are historical, based on historical numbers that we've had in the past. The other contract is for the non-emergency transportation, and that is for Hamilton County citizens who are eligible for Medicaid, who need to be transported to and from medical appointments. That contract is 100% reimbursable by Medicaid, federally reimbursed by Medicaid. So a lot of money. I think it's a really good question. I can get you some specific numbers in terms of the number of families and number of trips that we provide on an annual basis to give you a better idea of exactly how those costs are arrived at in the future. So happy to do that.
Thank you. I think it would be helpful just to put it in context, because I think sometimes this seems to be a little bit, to me, a hidden cost. I mean, you don't always think about the transportation costs related to the kids that are in our care. I think it's more obvious when it's a stipend to a kinship family or to a foster family, not as obvious when we talk about transportation. So if you could provide that, I would be grateful, just so that we have a broader context for some of the dollars that we're talking about here.
I can certainly
Thank you.
provide that. Thank you.
And I believe I wrote you a note about the transportation vendors that you're using. Transportation is so critical to children's services. And when they're not able to get to the clinic appointment or whatever, they regress and then we end up more counseling and all. And so I was just really excited about, and I let you know that the diversity of the transportation that's being used, because we're talking about maybe get smaller vendors or not use all the same ones. So I was really happy to see that. So.
Well, thank you, Madam President. Again, I just remind you, these are all publicly bid contracts that we've had over the years. And so we continue to do that as these contracts come up for bid. We'll look at ways to see what's out there, what's available to provide the services to our families. So
Thank you.
Okay. So with nothing else coming forward, I'd like to make a motion to.
Madam President, I just want one last thing.
Sure.
So I mentioned the interns in the room earlier. My intern was not here, but she is now. So Vivian Chang is interning in my office. I just want to welcome Vivian to the county, and I'm glad she's in the room. Thank you.
Great, welcome. Yeah. Okay, let's make a motion to approve item 3 through 9.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you.